guys, we are now in lesson 9.5, and this one is called Divide Unit Fractions by Non-Zero Whole Numbers. So the solve and share we're going to start with first. I have a picture to represent what is being discussed in the solve and share that we'll get to in a moment. So the question says, yesterday the cooking club made a pan of lasagna. They left half of the lasagna for 4 members of the photography club to share equally. What fraction of the pan of lasagna did each photography club member get? Solve this problem any way you choose. And again, they say you can use appropriate tools to show how to divide what is left. So for this problem, we know some information already. So we know they made this lasagna. Obviously, they made the whole lasagna, and a portion of it was already eaten. They left half, so that's the part that we're going to be focusing on as far as the dividing, the division. And we know that there were 4 members of this club that are going to share this equally. So their question is, what fraction of the pan of lasagna, the entire pan of lasagna, did each member get? So when you first look at this problem, it might seem like you would just say, I'm going to cut this portion that's left into 4 equal pieces, and I would give each person a fourth. However, the question is not asking you the fraction of this as the whole. They're asking you the fraction based on this as the whole. So we are starting obviously with a half because somebody ate the other half. So out of that half, we're dividing it by 4 people. So if I take this half and I divide it by 4 people, they want to know which portion. So if I say that I get this portion right here, what is my fraction based on the whole lasagna, not just that half of lasagna? So what I have to do is, if this part cuts into 4 equal pieces, that means this part would do the same thing so that both halves look identical. So if I'm eating that one piece, I'm actually not eating a fourth. I'm eating 1 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm eating 1/8 of the entire lasagna. When I write my number model, so if you go down to the look back, in the look back, it's asking us to write an equation to model this problem. Here is our equation. 1/2, again, that's the portion that is remaining. I'm cutting it into 4 equal pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4. But then the bigger question is, what is the fraction when I look at the whole? So if I take that number model, 1/2 divided by 4, remember again, we said that we can always do this to my whole number. So I'm going to take that fraction this time, because that is the one that I'm doing a half divided by that 4. I'm going to take that fraction and flip it over. So it's going to be 1/4. And then when I do that, remember I'm now multiplying. So I'm going to take my division and turn it to multiplication. And I'm going to end up with 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 4 is 8. That's where I got my 1/8 from. So again, it's 1 piece out of the 8 pieces that make the whole. If we were only talking about this portion that was left and we're saying what fraction of that remaining part is eaten, then it would change the problem. So you have to be very careful about the wording of the problem and see what they're really asking. Is it they're asking me for the part that's left, or are they asking me for the part that they started with before somebody ate that portion? Okay, and then in the look back, they also just asked to write the equation. So either one of these would be acceptable. So you can write it as a division problem, like this. You can write it as a multiplication problem like this. It's going to both give you that same 1/8 as your answer. Okay, so that was the solve and share and the look back, lesson 9.5. We're gonna also take a look at the visual learning on Pearson Realize, so that has already been assigned for you. And I'm going to jump down to the Convince Me. So the Convince Me on the next page is another problem very much like this. This time they are talking about cornbread. So I'm going to use my same pan here. And on the visual learning video, or on the page if you read it, it said half of a pan of cornbread is left over. Anne, Beth, and Chuck are sharing the leftovers equally. What fraction of the original cornbread does each person get? So same idea as the visual learning of the solve and share. So if half the pan is left, so somebody ate this portion, this is the portion that is remaining, and there were 3 people this time that are going to share that portion. So obviously we're going to cut it into 3 equal pieces. So each of them will be getting a third of the remaining portion, but again, we have to think about it in terms of, are they asking me about that remaining portion's fraction, or are they asking me about the whole thing's fraction? So again, in the problem, it said, what fraction of the original cornbread does each person get? So in that case, we have to say there were 2 parts originally, so 1/2 divided by 3 people. So again, it's 1/2 divided by 3. So if I'm looking at this portion that's remaining, same thing, I'm going to also cut this side and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces would have been the starting cuts, and one person would get 1 of those 6 pieces. So my answer would be 1/6. So again, I'm going to do 3/1, flip it over to 1/3, turn that to multiplication, and multiply across. That's how I'm getting my 1/6. That was actually the problem on the visual learning on the top. They also showed you another way to do it with a number line, so please look at the visual learning video so that you can see that. And then I'm jumping down to the Convince Me. It says, in the example above, how is dividing by 3 the same as multiplying by 1/3? So it shows us right here that in this number model, when I do 1/2, remember originally I did divided by 3. So once I do that fraction, so remember 3/1 is the same as 3 wholes, and then I do that flip, I'm turning this into this, which then allows me to do my multiplication. So really, I'm multiplying the 2, my denominator, by 3 wholes. 2 times 3 gives me my 6 pieces. Okay, so that was the solve and share, the look back, and the visual learning and Convince Me. Please make sure you go watch the video for the visual learning on Pearson Realize so that you can also see the number line example. In the next video, I'm going to go over the guided practice before you do the independent practice on your own.